Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia and this is the floating head situation report. And I can report that the head is floating. This is the summary for the day of 1086 for the 13th of February for the situation report, the reporting on the situation of the floating head, of the Ukraine war and the special military operation in Ukraine. And so we're going to start off with the Kursk front first and actually do it clockwise direction until the Kherson front. So moving on to the Kursk front. Over at the western flank, we have new continued collapse of the Ukrainian defensive position over at Svidiklovo as the Russian forces continue to push southward, and with the latest geolocation suggesting that the Russians continue to have success over at Svidiklovo. Fighting is reported at Lebedevka as well as Nikolsky, with a Bradley infantry fighting vehicle getting destroyed by FPV drone at Nikolsky. Meanwhile, on the same screen, we can see that Kozacha Loknya getting shelled by the Russian forces. So this is the situation. We can zoom in a bit on the Svidiklovo situation. As you can see, Russian forces geolocated in the southern street, and there is still, of course, the eastern part of Svidiklovo that is not known to be taken by the Russians just yet. It is separated by the river, the Loknya River. So that is something to note. Maybe it's a little bit more difficult to push out from this sector. Maybe the Ukrainian presence in this site is a bit stronger. But with this geolocation, I kind of make a judgment call that it is unlikely that the Ukrainians have any positions around here, which means the Russians have taken all of these areas here in their offensive operation. Still a little bit of the southern street left in Svidiklovo. So we just continue to monitor the situation. As you can see, this stretch all the way down to the border, which the Ukrainians could reinforce rather easily if they can reach here. But in the first place, because there is a road, it's not that bad. It's doable. No, so let's see how this continue to play out. It's something to note that the road is not linked because this is the border, and I'm not sure the border fencing is actually still there or not. So let's see. After the eastern flank, the western flank, over in the northern sector, so I covered this. Okay, in the northern sector, Kotsisa was not mentioned anymore. There was, however, the geolocation of shelling of Ukrainian forces. It doesn't change our mapping because our mapping is rather accurate. Over here, it is within the Ukrainian controlled territory. Russians are attacking Malaya Loknya. Nikolsky was mentioned earlier just now. Nothing else happening over in the northern flank. Information on the Kursk region is all mostly by the Russian Defense Ministry, by the way. So that's all. Moving out to the Sudzha region. In the Sudzha region, we have fighting. Let me see, there's nothing there. So there's shelling reported over at Olishnya, Gogolevka, Roberskina, Zaleshenka. Sudzha most likely is shelling as well, and Gonjarovka is also getting shelled. So there's a lot of active attacking of Ukrainian forces in the rear position, and these are not artillery or airstrikes, because artillery and airstrike is reported in a separate paragraph. After this one, this is actually the Russian Defense Ministry mentioning of their active fire damage, by the severe group of forces. So yeah, the fact that they reported in this way might actually be FPV drone strikes, something else, something not artillery. So over in the southern flank, we have the Russians continue their offensive over at Malovoy, Kurilovka, and Goevo, with Goevo getting hit by Russian airstrikes. So that is noted. The Ukrainians, after their initial offensive or counter offensive, which is what I call it, after capturing Chernobyl, Konopelka, and Venesievka, basically ended the operation. There is no more attacks being reported, and that's basically them re-establishing the defensive position in this area, which was previously lost to the Russians in Russians' counteroffensive, reaching all the way to Manovka. So that's about it. The Ukrainians are very proud. They say that they still hold 500 square kilometers of Kursk. So yeah, probably they figure that this is going to be a great thing for negotiations. So let's see. The geopolitics, I will be reporting on that in terms of the surrounding the Ukraine war. So do subscribe to DPA News channel and the DPA main channel. And subscribe, do watch it. Especially if you see the video pop up, in the suggestions, click it, because every time you don't click it, it actually affects click-through rate, which means YouTube will share the video lesser to the other people. It's a very broken system, yeah, but that's just how the algo works. So support me, support you, support me, support you, support me. Yeah. So fighting is reported at Lipsy, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, and Voschansk as well. This is the usual, the cookie cutter, Kharkiv region situation, nothing particularly special. A geolocation was noted of Russian forces attacking a Ukrainian position. This is pretty much at the frontline region. Of course, when you're so close to the front line, this is of course very vague, and Ukrainians have probably taken some positions around here, and the Russians basically storm it and maintain the front line that we understand on our DPA mapping. So largely not much change regarding the sector in Voschansk. The Battle of Voschansk is getting really stupid. Yeah, but the whole city is flattened, but war is war. They still feel the need to continue to fight over it. Fight over rubbles. Reminds me of the quote on World War III, like, World War IV will be fought with sticks, and then we'll still be fighting over rubbles. Over in the Dvorichna front, at the Dvorichna front, there's nothing over in the northern sector of the Dvorichna front. Topoli Kayamka was not mentioned in the reporting. What we have, however, is the reports around the Dvorichna region and the Kindrashivka region. At the Dvorichna region, what is pretty significant, because Deep State UA have dropped the mapping of significant frontline change around Dvorichna and the north of Dvorichna, moving all the way to Fyholivka. Near Fyholivka, there is this big chunk of land taken by the Russian forces according to Ukrainian mapping. So this is noted in the frontline changes report already. And in the northern flank, in the northern half of Dvorichna itself, the Russian forces have taken a huge chunk of the settlement or the city, leaving Dvorichna, with less than half. I would say 30% of Dvorichna left under Ukrainian control, particularly with this encirclement here. This is basically an encirclement, which I don't think it exists. I think this is rather impossible to be there. Yeah, I think the Ukrainians would have withdrawn from there, but whatever it is, there is an encirclement now. So let's see how this continues to play out. The fighting reported in this region, Fyholivka was mentioned by the Ukrainian side. They are basically dooming about the situation around here. I think I put a dash on the wrong place. Yeah, it should be here. Including the latest report by the Deep State UA explaining the situation here over in this Dvorichna Fyholivka region. So they say that the bridgehead around Dvorichna and Novomlinsk is getting worse. They say that the Russians are advancing on the ground, and particularly increasing control towards the direction of Fyholivka. And they say that they approach from the southern outskirts, and they occupy another area of Dvorichna. This we have already reported just now. And they say that the Russians are now saturating the area with infantry, and are supported with significant advantage in FPV drones. They say that the Russians work in groups, that means in squads, hiding in houses and ruins, and there is not enough Ukrainian troops to actually take them out. So, which means they are now acknowledging that there is actually insufficient Ukrainian defense forces around this sector. So they say that the tactical unit in this area either did not cope with maintaining the defense or are not coping. So they basically they say that they need to pay special attention to the local command. They say that they are not working up to the task. So easy to say, for people sitting in the office, having air condition and talking nonsense. So yeah, unless the whole Deep State UA is all girls, then I can understand. If not, they should go down to the front and fight. So easy to say. Even I don't try to say that. It's like saying that, I mean, command is not good enough, but don't sabotage them and say that they should go and investigate this command. It's like, wow, man. There is lack of supplies and men all across the Ukrainian military. Blaming the local command just like this. And it's still the same thing. They are, even in deep state UA's position, they are expecting Ukrainian forces to defend every single inch of the land. They do not acknowledge that there's a need for trading space for time, or finding better tactical solutions to deal with the Russians by finding better defensive positions so that you can defend better and hold back the Russians' advance. But no, yeah, they're losing ground. So we have to pay special attention to the local command. It's like, who want to fight in this kind of force? Anyway, Kukivka is mentioned by the Russian Defense Ministry. Dvorichna is mentioned by the Ukrainians, basically talking about the same thing. So the Russians are already pushing towards Kukivka. So the battle of Dvorichna continue with the expansion and attacking towards Vyholivka. So this is the sector around the Dvorichna region. So moving further south, we have another sector of the Dvorichna front. This one is coming from the Russians attacking out of Kalinove. They are moving in the direction of Kindrashivka and Holubivka. So this is currently ongoing as well. The information is coming from the Russians and the Ukrainians. Ukrainians talk about Holubivka while the Russians are talking about Kindrashivka. So that's the sector around in this south of this southern flank of the Dvorichna front, just north of Kupiansk. At the Kupiansk front, surprisingly, no reports. There's no reports in the Kupiansk. And then over in the Vorona front, Borova front, fighting is reported over at Zarizove, Bohoslavka, Novokuliakivka, and Zeleny High. Only Zarizove is mentioned by the Ukrainians. Everything else is by the Russians. Fighting seems to be largely concentrating over in this northern sector with additional push from Zeleny High. So that's mainly the Borova front. We move further south from this area here to the northern flank of the Liman front. We have fighting being reported at Kharkivka, according to the Ukrainian side. And Russians and Ukrainians both talk about Novolyubivka, which means the push over at Novolyubivka is getting more serious, I would say. Kharkivka attack most likely coming from Makiivka, and the fighting at Novolyubivka is probably coming from Nevsky. So that's the main push around here. There's still a long way to go to the river. Like we are talking about like 20-30 kilometers. So still a long way to go for the Russians. But this also shows the scale of the withdrawal of the Russian forces in this area in September, October, or November 2022, where the Russians basically does not exist in Ukraine. They have hardly much forces here because everyone's contract is over, which the Russians cannot legally find any ways to reinforce the front line, which is why they started to do the partial mobilization. The front line during those days where it was collapsing is almost entirely defended by the Donbass militia, as well as the volunteer groups like the Bars 13. So those were the days, long time ago. And over in the Liman, the main Liman front, fighting is reported at Koloziazi, mentioned by both sides. Yampolivka is also mentioned by both sides. Frontline changes was noted at Yampolivka, serious one, and the Russian Defense Ministry mentioned shelling at Yampil. Talking about shelling, someone commented, why I don't talk about Ukrainian shelling. The main reason is because no one reports on it. So how we know there is Russian shelling, both Ukrainians and the Russians talk about them. Both Russian and Ukrainian Defense Ministry both reported in their report on where the Russians are shelling. But no one talks about where the Ukrainians are shelling. So this is the reason why I try to report limited numbers of the shelling reports. These are all the rare ones because these are locations named in the same report where they talk about the fighting is. So that's why I just noted it in. But the exclusive shelling report, like for example, the Ukrainian Defense Ministry have an entire paragraph talking about airstrikes and artillery strikes. I don't map them because it's a waste of time. You don't care, I don't care, so it is what it is. At Yampolivka, south of Terny, Russian forces geolocated in the southern street of Yampolivka, showing the Russian forces advancing further south. And this means that Yampolivka is now on the verge of full capture. The geolocation to the causeway towards Merne is just less than a kilometer. is merely 800 meters. Tumany is merely 1.5 kilometers. The Russian forces is likely to storm and take over this crossing around here into Russian control, and then storm south and create defensive position in the south. Then after that, they will probably comb the entire forest around this sector and to clear this out and secure this position. So this is something that I think is going to happen next. I shouldn't be doing analysis. Yeah, no, forgot. I should do it in conclusions or something. Anyway, in the Sivers front, yeah, sometimes I just want to talk a little bit more. I scared that I may not find the time to do the conclusions. At Sivers front, fighting is mainly reported at Dvorichna and Perezhny, both mentioned by the Russian Defense Ministry. Nearby, there was shelling reported at Nikiforevka. This is part of the Bakhmut front, but it's pretty up north. So that's noted all by the Russian Defense Ministry. So fighting is moving in Dvorichna and Perezhny. Interesting though, but I'm not sure if this is serious. Over in the Bakhmut front, in the northern flank, we have Previlia being mentioned by the Russian Defense Ministry. So they are moving up this direction. Orikhovo-Vasilivka was mentioned captured on the 9th. So there is always a possibility that the front line actually looks different from our mapping, and then this makes makes sense for the attack to happen in that sector. So actually, I want to do one experiment. Was this? Is this better? I think you cannot see you'll probably see the border, the front line better, but the words will be smaller and the icons are smaller. I think maybe not. Let's not do that. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, this is something that I was thinking about, because I worry that people find this very scary. Say, "Whoa, so many icons!" Right? For the people who are uninitiated. But let's say if I zoom out like this, you can't really tell, right? You can't really, the icons is already much smaller, so you don't really feel so intimidated. But everything is so tiny. Like, yeah, this just something I was thinking about. Let's not do that. Let's not do that. Let's go back to 100%. Yep. So Chasivia was mentioned fighting, but no, not important. I always dismiss Chasivia. I'm really not interested in Chasivia, but I know the Russians keep attacking it. In the Torex front, in the north, Alexandro Shutine was mentioned as part of the attacks in the Bakhmut front by the Russian Defense Ministry, and they also mentioned Ivanopilia. These are probably just shelling being done on Ukrainian reserve positions, because the Ukrainians most likely have a defensive the reserve position in the rear position, in this rear, and then they launch attack and operations from those positions. So this is probably what is where there are no frontline HQ or the forward operating base is. So this is probably why they're attracting Russian attentions. So, and it makes perfect sense. The distance from the front line, 5-6 kilometers. From Ivanopilia, also same thing, 6 kilometers. So even come to this 10 kilometers, it's around there. It's basically safe enough. It's far enough to be a forward operating base, but not too far to the point where going on operations is difficult. So that's what it is. Over in the Torex front, we have the Russian Defense Ministry announced the capture of Dachny. So I'm not sure what to make of it. It is possible because they have already claimed the capture of Torex. They have claimed the capture of Kremsky. So the capture Dachny does make a lot of sense. And but there's a but. Yeah. So we have no evidence of all these things yet. So we do not know. Otherwise, Dachny was mentioned by the Russian Defense Ministry. Ukrainians are still focusing on Kremsky and Torex. And as I always say, in the recent SITREPs, the Russian Defense Ministry no longer talk about Torex and Kremsky. Skremenivka was, however, talked about by both sides. So fighting is definitely in these sectors. So we shall continue to monitor with the capture of Dachny, a possibility. So that's all from Torex. Not all. In the south, near the New York sector, Sugabalka is mentioned for the first time since the 10th of January. And so this is mentioned by the Ukrainian side. So is this something? Yeah, not so sure, because strategically, this means this is not very meaningful. So over in the northern flank of the Pokrov front, we have the Russian Defense Ministry also announcing the capture of Zeleny Pole today. So both captures is announced today in the past few hours only. So that is noted, and the fighting is now mentioned at Tarasievka, Baranivka. Vodyany Druhi was also mentioned as captured yesterday. They mentioned Vodyany. Vodyanoe, I believe is Vodyany Druhi, because there's no other Vodyany in the front lines. And Yelizavetivka is mentioned by the Ukrainians. So we have potential capture of Vodyany Druhi and Zeleny Pole, with Russians still attacking at Baranivka. Zeleny Pole most likely coming from this other flanking, the eastern flank. So the front line might look like this, with the attack towards Tarasievka in the rear positions, whilst Russians took Vodyany Druhi and attacked towards Yelizavetivka. So that's the current situation over in this sector in the northern flank of the Pokrov front. We move to the Minokhrad sector. At the Minokhrad sector, we have only Promin and Lysivka mentioned, both by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. This is the usual, nothing particularly special in this area. Over in the Pokrov sector, we have Vivrove mentioned by the Russian Defense Ministry, Kotline, Udashne reported by both, Kotline only by the Russians. Molodetske is still mentioned by the Russians. This is the town that is just next to the border of Dnipro. Very significant PR wise. No, technically not that so, but PR wise very significant. And Ukrainians talk about Uspenivka. And if we join in the arrows, we can probably see the strategic situation right now in this sector. So yeah, they are basically spreading all over the place. And yeah, so this looks like a lion dance lion to me, but yeah, this is a bit too difficult to draw. So yeah. Anyway, there is geolocation of FPV drone strikes noted at Pokrov, as well as at Leontovivchi. Leontovivchi. How to read the Russian word? Leontovivchi. Vichy. Leontovivchi. Anyway, yeah. So anyway, that's about it in the Pokrov sector. Over in the southern flank of the Pokrov front, we have Nedievka, Zaporizhia, Sribne, as well as Novoandriivka. So Nedievka and Novoandriivka is both mentioned by the Russian Defense Ministry. Zaporizhia is by the Ukrainians, Sribne is by Ryba, the pro-Russian sources. Geolocation of Russian forces in the northeast of Nedievka was mentioned, with the Russians still battling at Nedievka. Novoandriivka is interesting. I'm not sure exactly where it's referring to the battle. Sribne is still under battle, and the Russians are pushing for Zaporizhia according to the Ukrainians. So definitely the Ukrainians are focusing on this sector the most. This is the main push by the Russians, seemingly. So that's about it from this sector in the southern flank of the Pokrov front. The battle of Andriivka continues to. So this Andriivka front, by the way, you can see a lot of frontline changes around here. We have to talk in detail. Andriivka, the battle of Andriivka continues, with the latest mapping coming from the Ukrainians looking really impossible. Like, the Russians like pushing up north from this puny little line of control, and they are also hitting backwards. So the high chance, as I said, because this looks like a pincer, most likely the Russians have already taken everything in between here. They probably taken all of this as well as everything here. All these yellow circles, I think the Russians have already taken. So it's just a matter of waiting for the front line, the mapping to catch up. Because if this is real, if this is where the gray zones and where the Ukrainians possibly is still holding positions in, this is just a lot of places getting encircled. Like they're encircled here, then here they also cannot get out. Here cannot get out. This one still potentially can get out. This area here is in deep shit. They have totally shot through another encirclement here, another bigger one here. Like it's just encirclement everywhere. So I find it hard to believe that the Ukrainians are so pathetic in their military operations. So that's what I think. I think they're much better than that. So otherwise, in the rest of the front line, we have Dashny mentioned by Braiba and Ukrainians. So Sukiali is mentioned by the Russian source Braiba. Zelenivka, Constantinople is mentioned by each sub-respectively of the Defense Ministry, and Bahartil was mentioned by the Russian Defense Ministry. And all in all, we have fighting reported towards Bahartir. Geolocation of Russian forces moving towards Roslev was noted. They're still pushing towards Constantinople, Zelenivka. Russian claim that they have closed this salient north of Yantarne, and also in the north, the salient in the north of Dashny, with the Battle of Dashny continuing to be reported, and of course the Battle of Andriivka was noted. So you can see this is one hell of a messy front line. Very, very messy. Like it's almost like schizophrenic. You do not know where you are defending. You do not know where to reinforce. Your resources are all split in all different sectors. So instead of having a front line that might be just 10 kilometers, 11 kilometers, 12 kilometers, no, they want a front line that looks like this. How do I draw the they rather have a 38 kilometers front line. They could have 1/3 of it, but they want a 38 kilometers long front line because they want to defend every single place, and they have no means of recapturing recapturing the villages and the settlement that is being captured. There's hardly any recaptures for a long time, other than the 2 towns in Kursk, and also this possible semi almost capture at Pischane. For most cases, the Ukrainians have no means of retaking settlements, and this is very serious, which means that whatever the Ukrainians are doing right now, they are just limiting the damage from the Russians. However, they are trying to limit the amount of land captured by the Russian forces because of negotiation purposes, and I think this is going to cost a lot of lives. Yeah, I value the lives more than the land. Yeah, that's just me. So anyway, over in the Velika Novosilka front, we have shelling reported at Koma, mentioned by the Russian Defense Ministry. Geolocation of a drone strike at Atratny, as well as at Skutny, there was a airstrike. So there is some strikes in the rear positions, shelling in the Koroma. And so then the Russian, and there is there are some fighting reported. Novochertine, Bulatske, Privene, Novosilka, Russian Defense Ministry reported that Rivnopil and Vremivka by Deep State. So the Russians are mainly focusing on the flanks. The Ukrainians are talking about these frontal positions. And then we have the major frontline change at Vremivka, mentioned by Deep State UA, where they considered massive amount of grounds taken by the Russian forces, straightening the front line. So if we zoom in, you can see that the Russians basically have largely straightened the front line around here, fully securing Vremivka, all the way up to the river system that is over here. So will the Russians stop at this river system? Not sure if they will do that. They have the current advantage. They are striking into the rear positions. So let's see. I think maybe for now they might actually go for this entire chunk because this is all part of the Donetsk Oblast. So maybe this is what they want to do for now. And this southern part of Donetsk, South Donetsk, is this closing up. So in fact, it's not south. Like south is here. But in terms of the front line, this is the southern part. They are about to fully taking control all of it. Then all that's left is going to be the northern part, where the two big city of Sloviansk and Kramatorsk is. So let's wait and see how this play out. Over in the Zaporizhzhia front, the flurry of attacks was not reported over the past 24 hours. The only geolocation of a Russian airstrike at Huaypole, they're getting fed. So that's about it. Over in the Kherson front, is funny. I saw someone correcting me that no, they say that Kherson and Kursk sounds nothing the same. But he didn't realize I'm just joking, right? Because in English, one pronounced as Kursk, and one pronounced as Kherson. So that is in English pronunciation. I know it's pronounced Kherson, the one is Kursk. So it sounds very different in Russian, but in English it's about the same. So it's Kursk and the Kherson. So yeah. Why do I have to explain my jokes? It's not funny when I explain it. So anyway, shelling is reported over in this. Maybe it's funny, right? Yeah, maybe the more I explain the word, the more funny it becomes. So anyway, shelling is reported at Novoberislav, Kozatske, Tokareivka, and Antonivka. This is all mentioned by the Russian Defense Ministry, and that's about it. On the side note, there is a drone strike on the Chernobyl power plant. I think what it hit was this dome. This dome here was hit by a drone. According to the Ukrainians, they based on the photos of the engine, they claim that it's a Garand drone. They say that it's a Garand engine. So of course the pro-Ukrainian side immediately say that no, because it's Garand, so it must be from the Russians. But the problem is the Ukrainians actually captured fully intact Garand drones before, which is why I have to hold back my opinion that it is a confirmed 100% Russian drone. I don't think so. I personally don't agree that's the case. If you look at the geopolitics side of things, Ukraine is currently in the back foot. They are actually losing the geopolitical war right now because Donald Trump went ahead and talked to Vladimir Putin. They agree on things. They agree to talk more in person. They go to visit each other. And Trump have even said that he don't mind be the first one to do the visit, because during my report of it, I mentioned that the president that goes to visit the other one is the weaker side, in the sense that the one that is waiting as a host. You come and visit me is like someone come and kowtow to the emperor or the king or the tsar. So it's like the one that is being visited is considered higher. But Donald Trump don't seem to care about this diplomatic significance. He just said that he don't mind to be the first. He don't really care. As long as the things get done, he's okay with it. So the geopolitically, US and Russia is moving ahead without Ukraine. And not just that, Pete Hegseth basically went to NATO, and at the Ukraine war working group basically has said that a lot of negative things. You can watch the video. I have do a deep dive on it, on every single statement that he said. So if you look at the geostrategic situation, it makes more logical sense that the drone strike is actually from the Ukrainians, because they need to up the intake. They need to up the stress level, the tension, to put it across to the Americans and of course across all of Europe that Russia is a threat. So so if you look from the Russian side, this serves zero purpose. There is no political purpose to striking the Chernobyl. Like what is going to achieve? It's not going to do much. It's only going to get Putin to be get Donald Trump to be more pissed off, to tighten the negotiation terms, which of course is not what Vladimir Putin would want. So which is why I feel I don't want to say that outright this is going to be Ukrainian, but I'm just saying that both sides have the capability to pull off this using the Garand drone, no less. Like the Ukrainians can literally use a Garand drone because they have captured fully intact drones, multiple ones, not just one. I think they have quite a few, because Russia have launched so many of them. So it's not an evidence that it's a Russian strike, but I just want to tell you guys, the political implications and the manipulation that could potentially be happening, because ultimately really that it served no purpose for the Russians. So anyway, that's it. So thank you for watching. Press the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next update.